Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our podcast today on managing product teams. Sorry about a little bit of a misstep. I know some of you had issues getting in, but I hope we were able to resolve that. We still see a couple people logging in here, so I'm going to give it another couple minutes here. So I apologize. We will be starting just in 2 or 3 minutes, but did want to give the opportunity for those that hadn't come in yet to make sure that they were able to see from the beginning. We are recording the webinar session, so whether you're able to log in at the beginning or maybe you have to drop off, we will send you a link to the recording at the end of the webinar. We're going to start in just 1 more minute. It seems like we're starting to slow down on the people joining in. So just in about 1 more minute, we'll start. Please hang tight with us. While you are waiting, using GoToWebinar is the webinar platform we're using. You can ask questions at any point in the panel. There's a panel that says questions. Please feel free to drop in anything that you'd like there. We'll be taking pauses throughout if questions come up on the slide. We'll also have an open Q&A section at the end. Please use that question panel to post any questions that you might have. That allows us to track them and make sure that we get to all of your answers at the end. We're going to go ahead and start the webinar now. Thanks again for everybody joining our presentation today. This presentation is hosted by Unlock OKR. For those of you who are not aware, Unlock OKR is a product of InfoPro Learning, a transformation organization who has been in this business for over 25 years, leading various change management and transformation projects for some of the largest organizations around the globe. My name is Nolan Hout. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Unlock OKR. And joining me on this webinar, we have John Gravanis, who is our VP of Product here at Unlock OKR and has over 20 years of managing product teams. I'm definitely taken that experience and poured every ounce of it into the product of Unlock OKR, but also learned a lot over the years, and I'll let him talk about that and some of the new challenges that I'm sure we all experience this year. To remind people of the agenda who registered for this, we're going to start by identifying and looking at what the core elements of successful product teams are. There's a lot of case studies out there on what makes a product team successful and what are good product teams doing. Now, obviously, that changes every single year, especially at this last year. Managing a product team has never been harder. So this is, according to most recent research of what we have on that. And the second point is once we kind of show you what other teams are doing successful and what that means for you, we'll start talking about one of the core aspects of a successful product team, which is transparency. Now, transparency today obviously means a lot more than what it used to be. A lot of this now is just getting everybody on the same page, which can be so difficult in our remote world. We'll then look at one of the core asks and one of the core challenges of any product team when you're trying to manage them is how do you shrink the time from here's this great idea to executing on that great idea. The product teams today are facing enormous challenges from the market. Just about every industry is flooded with 13, 15, 25 providers, or internally you're getting, if it's an internal product, you're getting requests daily. Why doesn't the tool do this? Why doesn't the tool do that? Your ability to take that whether it's a feature from the market that the competitor is doing that you now need to do, or you're having to build something internally to respond to market changes, that time between when the idea strikes and you're able to execute is an enormous strategic lever for a product team. And last, we will look at now how do we engage, specifically a point on how do we engage those remote product teams. It's such a challenge these days. We did want to make sure and cover that particularly. With that, I am going to pass it over to John Gravanis, the Vice President of Product for us here at Unlock OKR. John, why don't you take it away?
Yes, hi, and good evening, good morning to whatever part of the world you're sitting today. Thanks for investing your time today to listen to us. Apologies for the slight delay. Let me just 2 words on how we're going to go about this today. Well, I thought looking at successful teams, be it product teams or other teams, have a lot of common thread to it. So there's, if you look at any team, there's 3-4 places where we constantly struggle to, not necessarily struggle, we constantly invest time to improve. And if I look at a team, it's other than the actual people, it's the capabilities of those people, and how we tend to hire. So we tend to hire for attitude, let's say, less so for skill set. Having had a good core of skill set, so our capability set is different when we look for new people, and hence from team to team that will vary. The culture of the team comes a lot from us ourselves as team leaders, but also from our broader organization. We don't live on an island. We live inside a team, a much broader team that is has its own leadership principles and core values. So culture is shaped both by us and our leaders. The strategy, hopefully, if you're blessed, you have a very succinct strategy coming from above, quote unquote, but you yourself have done your the work necessary at your level to clarify vision and mission on how it's locally significant to your teams, and everybody has a crystal clear understanding of what that is and how they can contribute. And the last part is how the structure of the team is. Do you favor a very flat organization? Do you if there's very autocratic structures, very complex structures? So structure, capabilities of the people, culture of the team, and the strategy of the organization, and of course the people is what comprises the team for us. So if you can progress the slide, Nolan, for me. So we took a first look at we started to looking at our own teams, and we said the first thing that we need to pay attention to is we need to make sure we have a collaborative, inclusive team where we leave our egos at the door and we worry about doing what's right, not what I think is right. There should be no, nobody should be afraid to speak his mind. In a product team, I need every and all ideas on the table, no matter how silly initially it starts to sound, but then, so trust is important. We're blessed with having a bunch of people in our team that have a very strong ownership thread to them. So that, the buck stops with practically everybody in our team. So this is a good place to begin with, but this is an area we always look forward to. Curiosity, in a team, we ideate, we look at what others are doing, look at the trends, we listen to our customers. We have to be curious and innovate and push the envelope and do things that we're not comfortable with, never done before. Focus is a big one, especially for product teams that priorities and the speed of change is really fast. It is the gateway of all thinking, and I think it's the biggest muscle we as team leaders can train for our people, because it leads everything else that comes after that. How do we understand strategy? Another area. What is the strategy? Does everybody on the team have the same view on what is important now and what is important later? Both what's important, but when is it important? Thank you. Establishing the rhythm keeping the rhythm has been very difficult this time. Although product teams traditionally tend to be a little bit more virtual than other teams, this year from working from home, like with the kids home, I have been tech support for my kids every day. I'm sure everybody has a sad story to share there, like mine, but we live through MS Teams instead of meeting rooms. I had to wake up really early for my counterparts that are head in India, or they had to stay very late for me. Time zones was a problem. Next area is outcomes. We tend to, by nature, as humans, we tend to react with what I will do when I hear a problem. So we directly think outputs. It's really important to take that extra 5 seconds or 2 days, whatever the need is, to look at the outcome, the desired outcome, and what is the actions that I need to go to get there. So outcome focused versus output focused is another area that we need to focus on. And these are basically the areas that we would go grade ourselves, let's say, if we're looking at our team to see if this is a successful team or not. Can you progress the slide, please? So looking at our own challenges, our own team, we discovered that we're blessed with good leaders, and we understand what needs to be done to take care of our people. So the culture and the leadership is good. As I previously noted, again, fortunate enough to have guys that are, have high accountability sense, very high ownership sense, and they're very besides the fact that they're very young and thirsty and curious. On the other half of the assets that we're looking at in the team, we have a lot of priorities coming in. So, if everything is a priority, at the end of the day, nothing is a priority. So you start dropping the wrong balls. We're not comfortable every day that we had our ducks in a row, especially with us being in different time zones and not necessarily communicating at the right time with the right priorities. The product team is a very broad mix and match of capacities and capabilities and characters. The core function, the UX, the engineering. Unfortunately, we caught ourselves moving into at different paces, so we're never 100% syncs. And of course, as a product team, we always have this fear of missing out on what the next great feature we should put out, what needs to be addressed, and so on and so forth. So if I look at our team, we felt good about the top three. We didn't feel as good for the bottom four. So focus, alignment to strategy, rhythm, especially rhythm and outcomes, were the areas that we felt we need to do a lot of more work than the top three. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting, John. We wanted to pause for a second and just talk about two things. One, I think from my perspective as a person who owns a team, not necessarily a product, I would say if I were to grade myself in the last year, this is probably the four things that I wanted to work on the most. I think the curiosity, accountability, culture, a lot of those I've either hired for or I've got tools in place or something along those lines. But when we look at the focus, specifically this priorities coming in daily, marketing is I think similar to product teams and the ability of requests that they get of, well, how come you just don't have this product in there? As if it's, you just snap your fingers and you get it done. And so you get this deluge of things where you said, when everything comes as a priority, nothing is a priority. And so what we want to do is ask a simple poll as well, to just see how everybody else is doing. You should see a poll popping up here in just a second. Let me launch this. Hopefully everybody can see this. We just want to ask, which of these areas is the biggest pain point for your organization of these bottom ones? What we see is a lot of companies are able to do culture, accountability, curiosity, of the focus, alignment, rhythm, outcomes. Which ones are you having the biggest issue? I see we're getting some great responses coming in. We'll give about 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're seeing a huge, from my side here, alignment and focus are the two biggest. The alignment taking the lion's share of where organizations are struggling, with focus and outcomes both as a secondary. I can actually share these, so I don't need to show them. So as you can see here, John, definitely alignment is spot on. We're not the only ones facing issues with that. Focus, outcomes, and then 7% with rhythm.
Yeah, I feel bad that nobody else had the same problem with me on rhythm, but I am happy that everybody chimed in on the other one. So we're doing something wrong on rhythm. But yeah, we're definitely not alone. We looked around. This is a study from 2005, and although I could find data there, recent studies, this is 2005 is 16 years ago, yeah? But if I look at recent numbers, the numbers are really that disappointing. 95% of a company's employees are unaware of these strategies. This is Harvard Business Review 20 years ago, 16, and they still singing that same song. That's what we're reporting to them. Crushing majority spend less than an hour to discuss with their teams per month, and 50%, half of the organization, never look back at what the strategy is. So it's a fire to forget. You make your vision, mission statement, you say your strategy, and you hope at the end of the year you get there. That's 50% of the organization then, and it still is very close to 50 now. Slide, please. So we're definitely not alone. So what we did is, like marketing, like Nolan mentioned, the first thing that we looked at is, we are ourselves a very complex organization, the product, the PMG group, product management group. So we have tech people, we have UX people, we have business people. I tend to be a little bit lighter on the tech side, heavier on the business side. But I reached out to my leaders. I looked at my core team, my product managers, my BAs, the UX people that we work with to help us develop the product, the engineering and software developers, the salespeople that put this product on the market, and Nolan's team, who's the marketing, to look at how do you guys manage? How do you solve for these problems? And we discovered that in our engineering, right next to us, there was a very good solution. So can you reverse the slide? That solves for some of these. Slide, please. Solves some of these. So Agile, that is very close to us, solves for some of these to a certain extent, and I'll explain to a certain extent. So for focus, although inside software development and engineering, there is a very intense focus on what goes in and out in the sprint, what's the definition of done, what's the definition of ready. Very clear, succinct language in there that doesn't transcend. Unfortunately, it didn't, at least in the past, transcend outside that team. So we did not have those benefits of that intense focus and alignment like they did. And for sure, we felt that the rhythm part between the teams was not something could be solved by Agile itself, unless we go enterprise-wide Agile, which wasn't the case. And Agile as a principle as a framework, tends to create, I don't want to be unjust, but a feature factor. So if the focus is on putting out more features, more product, so it's outputs focused more than outcomes focused. There are some quality thresholds in there, but there's no rule in Agile that I'm aware of, or the manifesto, that talks about quality at the intensity that it talks about outputs. So Agile is a partial solution to our problem, not a full set of answers to our questions. So like any normal human being, I started by impact. So I said, okay, these are the things that I have to worry about: focus, alignment, outcomes, and I Googled it. And if you yourself do the same thing, you'll get similar responses, unless your habits on Google is different, because a lot of what I do every day goes into the responses that I get every time I ask a question. If you look for something to help you with focus, alignment, outcomes, and rhythm, or agility, or whatever the words you use, you will get strategic execution management frameworks, you get objective and key result frameworks, you got goal setting frameworks, MBOs, the likes of businesses struggling over their last 50 years. So strategic execution management looked too fancy for us. That wasn't a product language that I needed. I couldn't get my head around. OKR was more curious there. So we looked at OKR. If you can go next, and if anybody's new to OKR, I just have a slide for a definition. So the next slide, please. OKR is a goal-setting organization. For some reason, I have delay. Are we looking at Wikipedia? There you go. The slide changed for me now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sorry. Forgive me. So yeah, if for anybody is not aware of what OKR is a goal-setting framework that helps identify what clearly needs to be achieved as far as outcomes, and the word is objective they use. And how we're gonna know we got there is the key results. So what specifically will I be measuring to know that I achieved this objective? So objective and key results tells me both where I want to go and how do I know I'm monitoring the right numbers, metrics, that I'm on the right track to get there.
And a question, John, that just came in, which I think will be important to answer now, is, what is your definition of outcome versus output? I mean, somewhat of a mantra I know in our company. So I guess I thought it would be helpful to stop and pause and say, when we're talking outcome versus output, what are we really talking about?
Sure. Yeah. So the easy thing to think, the easy way to think about this is, if you're struggling, and it will sound like I'm avoiding the question, but I'm not. If you're working against something and you call it output or outcome, whatever it's in your head, depending on what the question was originally set to you. If you look at this and you say, okay, I achieved what I wanted to achieve, and you ask the question, so what? Did it move the needle? I shipped a feature. Did it add value? Okay, or if I'm in a different phase in product management, if I'm shipping a feature that creates value, is it translating into MRR? So depending on what your outcome is, what your desired goal, outcome could be ship the feature by then. Is that good enough? Do I need to go deeper? Is there another so what I have to ask myself? So that process will get you to your outcomes versus your outputs. But typically, the knee-jerk reaction is, when we need to solve a problem, you think outputs, you think action directly. You don't go deeper and say, okay, is this the action that I need to take? Go through the so what. And then you will get to whatever problem is in front of you, you will get to your outcome versus the outputs that were answering the so what, but there was another so what, yet you can go deeper. So outcomes are typically value driven. Outputs are typically tasks, features. Did I answer the question? Nolan, do you want to take a better stab at this if you can?
Yeah, I mean, I always, marketers are notable for buying lots of tools to manage, everything, everything. What I always say when somebody asks me, what does this really mean? it's actually right there in the definition, is I say, I've got a project management software I use internally called Teamwork, and I love it. It helps me track and identify what the output of my team was. Did they create the landing pages? Did they finish the project that they were supposed to do? Did the landing page get launched on time? But it doesn't track what happened when I launched that landing page. It didn't track what happened when I, sent out my email campaign. And so what I always say is, I use my project management tool to measure my output. What did I actually get done this quarter? Or what did my team do this quarter? How were they busy? And then I go to, my OKR tool for the key results to measure, okay, I put out this landing page, so what? What did it actually do? So for me, it's always easy for me to think of it in a tech stack, where I've got my one tech that manages all of my output, and then I have my other one that measures my outcomes, which obviously are going to be across every different thing. So that's how I always look at it. So you've now got the definition from a product person and a marketing person. I'm sure if you talk to ops or finance or sales, we could probably round out.
Yeah. If I generalize this, if I have to generalize this, and again, I'm generalizing, the outputs would be the actions, projects, initiatives, tasks, to-do list that you put yourself through, because you need to achieve the outcome. So creating the landing page, putting a form in it, in marketing terms, let's say, is going to get, forms submissions. Will that get what the desired goal is? Could be sales from that. That will get me a lead. That is a marketing accepted lead. Do I need to think outcome as that, or do I need to think outcome as the sale? So the fact that somebody came to this webinar doesn't mean he's ever going to buy anything from us. Yeah. So this is an output for us. An outcome will be you saying, okay, these are the guys that I need to get closer to solve that I have similar problems like they have. That will be an outcome for me. The output will be doing this webinar, and I'm using this today. So this is an output for me. This is a to-do. I'm doing my project, my initiative. But the outcome will be for you to feel comfortable and resonate to what we're saying, to say, okay, these are the guys that I need to get closer to listen to how they can solve my problem. I think I've
Wonderful.
overstated this as much as I could.
Wonderful. And we got some other definitions in the chat, so I'll post those as well as we continue on. So we'll move forward here.
Absolutely. So looking at the OKRs as a promise, can you hide the second part, please? Thank you. So there were two big promises here from OKRs because it was looking very promising. So their superpowers, OKR frameworks, if you do some searching, you'll see they claim they have superpowers. And their superpowers was focus alignment, focus on outcomes and value versus outputs, and tracking progress. And those were 100% aligned with what we thought our problems were. Lack of focus. We could have done a better job in alignment, getting caught less in busy work and focusing on, doing the so what to ourselves. So focusing on outcomes and getting the rhythm between every team together in one chain, one long production chain. But also doing the rhythm of planning, executing as the blessing comes with Agile that has that short cycle. Not everybody moves with that succinctly through that similar cycle in business. So rhythm is a problem. And the second part that we discovered is that OKR, if you can click again, Nolan, that the OKR framework with the Agile framework, we're creating a perfect storm. And I'll explain. OKRs are designed for strategic success and Agile for operational efficiency. So I could get maximum output and maximum outcome combining these two together. They're both very agile, very transformative. They always welcome pivoting and iteration and opportunities to change what you're looking at. Both of them articulating both the problems I need to solve. I still need to have my pedal to the metal on outputs, but I can now also focus on outcomes. And it's a great way for an agile team to start pumping out more value in the same supply chain, let's say, with business, supply chain being sales, marketing, business, so on and so forth. So we did go forward with OKRs, and we started enjoying some of the things that we will talk immediately after. So if you can go to the next slide, one of the first things that we enjoyed was improved transparency. So everybody from the intern that was hired yesterday to the CEO knows exactly using the framework and that tool that we are using or we created for ourselves, and now it's a product. Everybody knew where they're contributing. So who's contributing, who's helping, who's doing what, how is everybody managing? Is anybody struggling? My team, extremely transparent tool. I can see everybody's business. Everybody can see my business. And this is extremely empowering, both for people that are introverts, extroverts, high performance, newly high. Everybody benefits from this transparency. Next slide. So, and the next area that we started seeing, and this is a muscle that needs training, but the moment you start implementing the framework of OKRs, as was the case with Agile from Waterfall, you start training this muscle to be that much faster of going between planning and execution, but never letting focus of what the end goal is while you're executing. So key results in the framework operate as leading indicators versus KPIs who are lagging indicators. Yeah. So as you are executing under the OKR framework, if you decide my task is improve, I have an example here of improve the product release process, and you decided that these 4 bullets are the right key results to get this outcome, because the first one is the outcome. The 4 bullets below it are key results. Are the outputs that you're shooting for. So if you achieve those things, reduce bugs, reduce the sign up, improve the App Store rating, and improve NPS, which personally I don't agree with, but it's there in every product team. If I achieve all these, I'm 100, well, not 100, close to 90% sure that I will be improving the product release processes. So the more you go into that succinctly articulating exactly what I need to do to hit this, and if I hit that, what is the value that I'm producing? The more you train your thinking, the quicker you go from planning to executing. Okay, so and yeah, let's progress. And the last thing that we start seeing, there was a problem that we had to live with. Although we are a virtual team before COVID, we were very virtual after COVID. Like we went home. It wasn't regional offices. It was regional offices. 16 different offices in every country, in every because we went home. So contributing to what matters stays top of mind. Who you're working with, on what you're working with, is every day there in front of you. So regular communications, because the framework, like Agile, has stand-ups and grooming sessions and all that. There is a communication rigor in OKR that can simulate and work with Agile. Having the blessing of Agile and a frequency of touching on what's important now is complemented with another layer of communications and succinctly putting goals that are quarterly or bi-monthly, whatever your cycle will be. Like there is a cycle in Agile, OKR has its own cycle, and around that cycle, we have a frequency of how often do we talk about what's important and how do we keep each other accountable. So there's both visuals, but also a regime, like a rigor, a process of how frequently we communicate the progress that we're making. Do we need to pivot? Is the key result that we selected contributing to the outcome? Are we moving a little? Is it time to pivot or not? So similar structures and thinking around Agile come with OKR. A little bit more focus, a lot more focus on accountability and connecting to strategy. Slide, please. So if we look at our poor rating here, if you can click one more time, those were drastically improved after we picked up both sides and started. And I think there's a lot of room for us to improve, because this is a muscle that every cycle that we go through, we become more aware of where the benefits are, where our shortcomings are. So we are happy, extremely focused now. We are much more aligned in strategy. The rhythm is still something that we're struggling, but it's not easy with us being in different time zones, highly focused on outcomes. And we had some, of course, the culture of the team. Everybody feels more secure. Everybody feels more knowledgeable about where we're going. Accountability is up, and of course, because OKRs by nature ask you to dream a little bit bigger than outputs, they think outcomes. You push yourself a little bit more on the innovation side. So there's a lot of more curiosity and innovative thinking happening in the team, and that was a side effect that we weren't shooting for.
One of the questions that just came in, John, is of these, 7 that are on the screen, which impact did you feel the most?
I would say focus and keeping my eye on the ball strategy. Making sure that what I'm doing today really matters to the strategy that I said I'm going to work against. So I'll say 4 and 5, focus and alignment to strategy. Again, rhythm, my old body is resisting some structures, but my brain is 100%, and my team reports that we're 100% focused and as close as possible, and alignment to strategy.
Great. And what I found is, within when we started implementing a lot of this, that I found that a lot of these are really connected, and sometimes what you see here is even sequential, almost like an equation starting at the top of having a strong culture is obviously what really strengthens any organization. And then if there's accountability within the team, that gives people freedom to be curious and understand where exactly can I play, where can I not play, and then getting focus focus and align to strategy, I think, are super important, because if you're not focused on something that really matters, right? If you're not focused on the outcome and you're focused on just output, then you can be going astray. And, rhythm, I think, is really one of the biggest things that a lot struggle with. But if you're able to make these, 5, 6 things above there part of your rhythm, if you make that part of your daily life to focus on them, you kind of achieve outcomes. So I almost like to look at this as an equation sometimes as well.
No, I agree. So I think, some of these affect the others. It will not be immediate at the beginning. It will be immediately be noticeable, but you'll see that you did nothing to improve culture or accountability, but people get what they need and they start behaving at their utmost best. So culture is growing in the right direction. The accountability is going the right direction, and rhythm will get there. So although I'm not the authority on product, these guys seem to be. I read a lot of what they put out. Product School and Product Plan. That Product Plan is a product for road mapping, I think. But there's some good reading there. One of our customers, Broadcom, has written 2 rather extensive articles around how Agile and OKRs could work together, and they hint on what could be the day after, even for us. So SAFe is something that could take Agile and OKRs across the entire organization, in the enterprise, not only on the tech side, which is, we are considered the tech side for a lot of departments in our organization. So SAFe is something that could be next. And Felipe Castro is a world-renowned coach. I absolutely like how pragmatist, and he calls a spade every time I talk to him. He is a person that I think if you're going to delve into OKR, you should, spend some time reading. And of course, Nolan and I and our subject matter expert internally in the team do everything we can to publish stuff at our blog at unlockokr.com. I think with that, I can open the floor. We can open the floor with any questions or if there's anything in the chat with.
Yeah, and if you need answers to anything, John promises that he has all of the answers. At least that's what he told us when we interviewed him. So
I respond in a split second. Again, remember, rhythm is not my strong point.
So again, we do encourage those that are interested in managing product teams, interested in OKR. Please message John. He's got a wealth of information on both. Obviously, if your primary interest is learning more about this OKR concept, whether that was new to you or this was your first time hearing about it today, happy to have a conversation about that as well, wherever you might be in that journey, whether you're evaluating tools, whether you're managing on Excel spreadsheets now and you're trying to make the lift, or again, maybe before this call, you had no idea that OKRs even existed. Please feel free to reach out to us. We did have a good number of people join us back in, which I was happy to see. Sorry again about the issues there logging out, but appreciate you all coming back in. If there are people do have more questions, please post those in the question panel. We've got one coming in here that we'll take. If we don't have more, then we'll go ahead and drop after that. So one of the questions I have here, John, is what made you look, how did you eventually decide on OKR? And I know we covered that a little bit earlier on your search for tools, but what was it about OKR that for you was what you decided on in your product team?
Yeah, so the first thing that was attractive when I started reading about OKR, the first thing that was attractive was that it was born in the ranks of Intel, and Google made it sexy to everybody. So, in layman terms, if I do something that Intel and Google did, I'm probably on the right track. Everything else was a little bit more, everything else I came across was a little bit more formal, less techy, less agile, or, there's a lot of, Intel are the true inventors of OKR. So there's managing by objectives. It has been there with us a million years, as like balanced scorecard has been, or goal quality management, all those frameworks could solve our problems, but they're very rigid. So they don't play nice with Agile and other stuff that we do in the product team. OKR was that. So the first time Intel invented this, what they did is they took MBO, managing by objectives. They did it the Intel way. They call it IMBO, I for Intel. And that was the true father of OKR. They put agility into a rigid framework. And then when Google picked it up, John Doerr, as a student in Intel, was later part of venture capital. They invested in Google, and they just took it to extremes. They took it and run Google. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously as an organization, it's one that I adopted as well. What I liked the best about the OKR, having used a couple different MBO, management by objective type things in the past, is this just seemed much more simple for me. Not that, I guess, not for me, but more for my team. I thought, if this is something that I can pick up so quickly, I watched a 10-minute video, I think, about it, and then I felt like, okay, at least I grasp what they're trying to do. For me, that was what sold me on using OKRs as a tool to focus on a lot of what we talked about today, was just the simplicity of it. Some of them have, here's the 30 components of our model, and yeah, it's comprehensive, but if I have to try to educate my entire team on it, and for me, I knew that I wouldn't have that value unless everybody in my organization was on it. I knew that the biggest point would be change management, which is something we just got a question about. I answered that, but in case you didn't see that in the panel, is your team offering certifications and training? We do offer training. That's one of the biggest strengths of our organization. As I mentioned, we have over 25 years in helping organizations manage change and manage transformations. And so the services side of our organization, although we do sell a product that helps with OKR, we are very strong on the services component because we feel that's what makes it stick.
Yeah, and if I can interrupt you there, Nolan, one of the other things that was really attractive, I stumbled across a writer that coined the sentence. Well, he didn't coin the sentence, but he said, Agile is easy to understand and difficult to operationalize or institutionalize. I don't remember which word he used. And then when I started reading about OKR, it's exactly the same way. It's easy to understand. It's simple to understand. It's a little difficult to institutionalize. So as in Agile and Scrum, you need to go, you need to build that muscle. It's not, you don't read the book and just execute tomorrow morning. OKR is the same way. That's why we, coming from a 25-year experience and a DNA in helping people transition from, unlearning what they know to learn something new. This is what the organization does, workforce transformation. We are a product team in a workforce transformation organization. We are next to our customers or partners that are coaches, OKR coaches, to help the end user adapt and operationalize and institutionalize this framework. So there is a lot of training, a lot of coaching, train the trainer. We even create champions in our customers that are OKR coaches that work for the customer even long after we walk away from services. And they're still using the product, but our coaches are not there. We create coaches inside the customer to do this.
Yeah,
because it's the same way. You need somebody like Agile, like Scrum. You need your Scrum Master. Same way, you need an OKR champion, and we're here to do that as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for joining the call today, and thanks for the webinar, and thanks for those that joined twice. We appreciate that. We will send over. Yeah, we thank you twice. We'll send over a recording of a clean version you can share with your team, and all the links in there will be sent out as well. Again, thanks for joining our webinar. We hope to hear from you soon, and have a great rest of your day or end of your day, depending on where you're joining. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you, Nolan.